God says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it?" So let's get all together. God said, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it?" Yes, do you not perceive it? In this wilderness, God will provide. Welcome to all of you. I'm going to announce your names, and as I announce your congregation's names, I would like to invite you to each stand, and then at the end we'll applaud everyone together. So today gathered is Ascension Silver Spring, woohoo! Christ Church La Plata and Christ Church Wayside to remain standing. Christ Church Washington Parish, Good Shepherd Silver Spring, St. Dunstan's Bethesda, St. John's Beltsville, St. John's Olney, St. Matthew's San Mateo Hyattsville, St. Nicholas Germantown, St. Paul's K Street, St. Timothy's DC, and Transfiguration Silver Spring. So give yourselves a round of applause. You may be seated. You have been seated in close proximity to those congregations with whom you share a cohort. These will be your partners going forward. Our partnering of congregations was intentional. We have congregations from nearly every region of the diocese, and we have gathered you for the value of learning across difference, that we learn better when we learn from those unlike ourselves. And this is one of the Lilly Grant values that helped drive our application as well as our design. And I know that God has much for us to learn from one another as we each have a patch of that vineyard. So welcome to 12 congregations, 78 leaders, and over 100 gathered here together. We're a diverse set of congregations, again, heralding from 7 of our 8 regions of the Diocese of Washington. We have a congregation that is founded fewer than 20 years ago. You may applaud yourself. We also have congregations with, that were founded more than 200 years ago. Congregations with over 200 on a Sunday morning, and congregations with fewer than 100. Every one, now listen to this, every one of our congregations here is situated in a culturally diverse, multi-ethnic neighborhood. I mean, that is something to applaud. It was a surprise to me when we did the Mission Insight on every single one of you to check out the 3-mile radius. Every single one of our congregations is situated in a multi-ethnic neighborhood. And so together we have journeyed through the wilderness in this past 18 months in pandemic. And even in the midst of pandemic, you have heard God's call. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Y en español, Dios dijo, he aquí estoy haciendo algo nuevo. ¿No lo percibes? Let's try that one again. Dios dijo, he aquí estoy haciendo algo nuevo. And this verse from Isaiah 43:19 comes from the people who were returning after more than 5 decades themselves in exile, returning to rebuild their communities, a people who were rethinking their understanding of themselves, their relationship with God, and their relationship with one another. Behold, I am doing a new thing. And so for more than 2 decades, we have heard about the decline of American Christianity. The percentage of individuals who claim no religious affiliation, the nuns, is rising. A growing number of young people are choosing not to join churches. Weekly attendance, which was once considered a Christian duty, now is once or twice a month. And then the pandemic hit. And yet, while for many congregations the pandemic has expanded possibilities for evangelism and extended your digital reach to people thousands of miles away, regathering right now for many is presenting its own challenges. Yet, we believe that local congregations have been and will continue to be the primary form of Christian community. Congregations are places where Christians gather regularly for worship, where faith is passed on, care is provided, and God's love is proclaimed through acts of service and hospitality. Congregations are bearers of Jesus' love for the world. I know in my own personal life, I would not be here if it were not for my Christ Church congregation back in Poughkeepsie, New York, when I was a little girl, and then, of course, my sending parish, who's right here, Christ Church, Capitol Hill. This is a matter of life and death, isn't it? And I think we all know that. So you can continue on. Oh, nope. Nope. Back to 2. Here we go. That was your cue. So we are embarking on a 3-year journey together to do just that, to listen to God and what God is up to listen to one another in community, to listen and reconnect with our neighbors, and to see what God is up to. Together, next, we will explore and understand our rapidly social and cultural context, who continue to seek a place of belonging, transformation, purpose, creativity, and accountability, and are finding it at CrossFit. They're finding Soul Cycle and Citizen Well. Yet people are still have a spiritual hunger, and this something more, this something greater than the community gathered is what we have been gifted, is what God is all about. It is the treasure that we hold. We will spend time gaining greater clarity about our mission and values after we listen to God and what God is up to join God in God's mission. And we have that something more, don't we? We have the religious vocabulary. We have the rituals that hold meaning and confer meaning. We have that history of deep exploration of the greater whole of God. And we will draw on Christian practices from our theology and tradition to adapt our ministries to the demand of these changing contexts as we experience them. An example would be Christian hospitality. We are gifted with that tradition of hospitality at a time when loneliness is actually at an epidemic level. I want to invite you to think of hospitality in this way. It's a way of thinking of that Scott Cormode in The Innovative Church talks about. Hospitality is the extending of privilege of a community to the outsiders. The extending the privilege of a community to outsiders, which says what you have you been gifted. And out of that, you're driven to share those privileges to outside. We are given the gift of knowing God's love. That is a privilege that we are invited to gift to others. We also have the gift of lament at a time of collective trauma. And our psalms of lament have a form and a shape and a language that allow people to rail against God. That permission that isn't often granted to others. And we have that language, and some are seeking fresh expressions of these ancient traditions: dinner church, farming community, yoga, and prayer. And each of you will find that new expression of Christianity within your congregation. First, we listen to God, what God is up to in our community, in our neighbors, and in our Episcopal tradition, and then innovate, respond to God's invitation. So God said, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." Okay, go on. And this is what the purpose of our gathering: to grow in vitality, to strengthen our ministries and thrive, to grow the Jesus movement of people who centered their lives on Jesus and following him into loving, liberating, and life-giving relationships with God, each other, and creation. I was challenged to give it a broad overview of our time, and so here it is. This is our 3 years. Some of you have seen this already. This is a medallion that I will add to your learning journey on the online learning hub. So thank you for nearly everyone has joined that, and that will be the place that we through which we communicate. The inner ring shows the core congregational cohorts, gathering congregations in groups of 3, congregations together to learn from one another, shaped around the vital signs that the diocese has identified as being what we understand as being vital congregations to be able to share Jesus' love in the world, and guided and accompanied by coaches. Each of you has an identified coach. Many of you have met with them. They have received significant training for this. They are gifted leaders. This is a unique way within the Episcopal Church right now to really move forward so that those innovative practices, what your coaches are going to do, and you'll hear about this more, is once you've identified those innovative practices, you should expect to fail. In fact, interestingly enough, Lily Grant said to me, and said to all of the Lily Grant, don't expect to run the program that you presented to us. If you do, we will be concerned. And the reason is that this is a learning journey. I am learning along with you. You will learn. You will try something. It might not work, and your coach is there to help you identify those next steps. Instead of abandoning the project, what did we learn out of what we just tried? What was fruitful? What fell short? Let's return to listening. And those 5 practices that Stephanie did an absolutely awesome job unpacking for us during her sermon this morning, of listening and reconnecting to our neighbors and reconnecting to God's dream for us, discerning what it is at our next steps, and then cultivating the leaders and the resources to be able to take those next steps, and celebrating all along the way. Every moment should be also a time of celebration. And then the outer ring, year 1, all focused on listening for the purposes of affirming or reimagining our mission and identity for our congregations going forward. This is a time of adaptive leadership. You should expect to change while our foundational mission might not change, our vision will, and you can expect to change that in this time of adaptive leadership every few years now. No longer do you do 5 or 10-year strategic plans. Things just change far too quickly. And then in year 2, equip and plan for what you have imagined, and year 3, launch and assess. And we will have quarterly learning labs in all 3 years with various levels of support based upon what your needs are. So welcome. God said, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." Dios dijo, "He aquí, estoy haciendo algo nuevo." Amen. Okay, let's stay there. Now I'm going to recognize some of our leaders, and then I'm going to pass it off to Chris Holmes, who has trained our coaches. So first of all, I want to recognize our partners. Chris Holmes is our partner in coaching. He has trained over 1,500 coaches. He's an author of The Art of Coaching Clergy and a UMC pastor. And he has spent more than 60 hours already with our coaches. And so he's with us for the long haul, all 5 years. And Mark Meyer, our partner with Director of Revitalization, our partner with the Young, has assisted thousands of congregations of all sizes, helped our diocese through a period of strategic planning, and has already worked with a number of EDOW congregations with success. And then our partner with the Episcopal Church, Stephanie Spellers, the presiding bishop's office, presiding bishop canon for evangelism, reconciliation, and creation, and the author of several books, including The Church Cracked Open. Woohoo! And then I'd like to ask our coaches to please stand up so all of us can recognize who you are. There we go. We have Eileen Moody from Grace Silver Spring, Amanda Aches Cardwell, also from Grace Silver Spring, Alethea Long Green from Epiphany Forestville, and Lisa Saunders, Ahuja, St. Thomas, DuPont Circle. Thank you. And then our leadership team who has designed this program, Emily Snowden. I can't live life without Emily. Woohoo! Anne-Marie Jeffrey, Canon for Vitality. And then again, Mark Meyer and Chris Holmes. And then as we go forward, Andrew Kryzak from Christ Church will be joining us in that leadership. And John Harmon has also been helping us design this program and was unable to be here due to a conflict. And then finally, but of course not least at all, would be church house staff. I would like to invite all of the church house staff who are here to please stand. More will This is an immense effort. You all have made an immense commitment, and I am deeply grateful. And I got teary-eyed a little earlier when I was saying, God, behold, God is doing a new thing, because I truly, truly believe that our congregations bear great gifts for the world, that God speaks through us, that we are bearers of Jesus' love, and it is our invitation and our responsibility to take up this work together. And I am incredibly grateful that you have chosen to do this. So thank you. And with that, I'll pass it to Chris Holmes.
Good morning. Again, my name is Chris Holmes, Cristobal Olmes, and I am the kind of behind-the-scenes coach. So you're going to be working directly with your coaches. I'm the guy who trained them and will be supporting them and kind of fanning the flames of their good work. I want to start with a question. How many of you all have been had the experience of being coached by a trained coach? Can I just see a show of hands? Okay, so a smattering of folks. So you all already know experientially the power of coaching to bring about transformational change. I'm going to say just a little bit more about that. Coaching is the newest cousin at the table of the helping ministries. It's not better than counseling. It's not better than mentoring or consulting. It's not better than spiritual direction. In fact, I want to say thank God for all of those disciplines. Amen? I mean, they're helpful to us in lots of ways. But coaching is a little bit different. She is the newest arrival at this table of helping ministries, and we say she deserves a spot at the table alongside the others and to take up some space. So here are a couple of things that are different about coaching from those others. Coaching assumes wholeness, where some other disciplines may start from a different place. Like if you go to a counselor or a therapist, it's usually because something's not working, right? You're feeling a brokenness in your life, you're feeling pain, and that's going to be the starting point, and that's going to be much of the work. Why would you go to a consultant or a mentor? What would you be looking for? Anybody? Expertise, guidance, advice, something from somebody else that you may not have. You'd go to a coach when you're looking for somebody to have somebody who will be a creative conversation partner, who will trust you to be the expert in your life and to do your best work. So it's a different kind of partnering where the expertise lies with the person who is being coached. That's why in coaching, we assume that the teams that we're privileged to talk to are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. I'm going to say that again just because it's so important to coaching. We believe that the people we get to talk to as coaches are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. I hope you've got somebody in your life already as an individual who so believes in you, who is so in for you, and believes that you are capable of amazing things. That's the stance of a coach. Can you imagine, can you picture how powerful that can be as a starting place to bring about change? The second thing I want to say is that that makes coaching different from the other modalities is this bit about where the expertise lies. Dr. Spellers was talking this morning about where the wisdom lies, comes out of conversation, comes out of the hard work that's done in the church as we look forward. Coaching is clear that the expertise lies with the team, or if it's an individual that's being coached, with that individual. And if that's true, and if I really believe that as a coach, then as a coach, I don't have to be brilliant, because it's not about me and my brilliance. Instead, I'm an excavator of brilliance. Sometimes I think about this work as archaeology of the soul. A coach will stay present with your team, trained to listen at a very deep level to what's being said, what's not being said, what voices are absent, all to listen at that very deep level, to ask some really powerful questions along the way, and to help you expand the possibilities. The one thing a coach will generally not do is give advice, because they are not the expert. And we know this too from brain science, that if Carol is my coach, let's say Carol's my coach, and if we're in the middle of a conversation and she gives me her advice, her ideas about what I should do in my life or my context. When in the brain scans with all those electrodes hooked up to the brain that go to the machine that show up on the monitor, when Carol gives me her advice, my brain goes into neutral and nothing is lighting up on that monitor. But if Carol, my coach, asks me a really good question instead, man, that thing is lighting up. It's showing all kinds of colors. So in the coaching relationship, what we are aiming for is to help people's brains light up with their own wisdom and their own generativity to kind of move things forward. We don't want to put their brains in neutral. So I also want to say, just kind of add here, that I think congregational teams are weary of someone else's great idea. I mean, I think we're tired of being told what to do, and I think we've finally realized we're not going to find the answers for the way forward in somebody's book somewhere. There's 5 easy ways to whatever, or some book on leadership. It's not that easy. Especially now in the church, what we need is a way forward that is organic. It comes from the people. It comes from the people in the pews, having the kind of generative conversations that need to have in a process like this, and including the clergy that shepherd them, who also believe in their well-being and that they are incredibly powerful in ministry. So the answers are not out there, they're in here, and that is where the expertise lies. One other thing, real quickly, the third thing that makes coaching different from other modalities, and especially powerful in making change, is that it is action-oriented. In the church, maybe you've noticed this, we love to talk. Lord have mercy. We love to talk. Can I get an amen? So 5 people can go to a committee meeting and burn up an hour and a half one night talking about something that never results in action. Everybody goes home. They meet again the next month, that same 5 people, and they talk for another hour and a half about the same thing and never get to the results or what needs to happen. I think 2 of the great sins in the church are how much people's precious time we burn up like that. And another one is that we are probably the least accountable organization in society. So where coaching helps out here is that a coach will bring a little bit of starch to all that talking. And that coach is going to be saying, what are some of the action steps we need to turn to now? And who will take responsibility for those? And go ahead and build in even a little gentle accountability for those commitments. So what is the power in coaching to affect change? Coaching uniquely assumes wholeness. It believes that the expertise and the brilliance lies with the team, and it cares enough about outcomes to keep an eye on the action steps and to keep the action moving forward. So I want to say as I end here, what a great opportunity your congregations have. You already know that. I can sense it in the room. I can sense it in worship this morning. What a great opportunity this is through tending our soil, through this whole adventure. It's structured really well, and along the way you're going to learn and you're going to grow. There's great stuff coming that we'll all be exposed to along the way under the guidance of the wily Holy Spirit. And also, there are going to be some good coaches, some really good coaches partnering with you to help you do your work on this journey. I deeply believe that this is holy work. It's sacred work, and it's God's work.
Hey friends, so I'm Mark Meyer. I'm just curious of how many of you were at the regional gatherings that we did. We did a big listening session throughout the diocese. I'm just curious, like a raise of hands of how many of you are part of that? Okay. All right, 17, excellent. And let's see, how many were part of when we did some work on just asking the questions around what is a healthy congregation, and we did some work and post-it charts were all up along the walls. Were anyone part of that? All right, a few of you, great. Well, I am Mark Meyer, and so for those who I have not met yet, I'm looking forward to meeting you. I am from South Bend, Indiana. I am maybe what is considered an outsider because I am not Episcopalian. However, I have had the chance to hang out with you all for about 3 years now, and I don't know how else to say this, but your DNA rubs off of me. I don't know, I mean, it's like, I've been reading books about you, and it's like, what is it that they think, and what is it they believe, and what are these nuances, and I love you all. There is a uniqueness about what you all have that I get the chance to hang out with churches all over the country, and there's a uniqueness about you all that I can't wait to dig into further in this journey, so I'm looking forward to that. A little bit about me. I'd rather you know a little bit more about me since we're going to be hanging out some time. I am married. My wife's name is Kimberly, spelled K-E-M-B-E-R-L-Y. So her nickname growing up for many years was Typo. You can appreciate that. Got 3 kids. My oldest daughter is in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. She's got 2 of what I call the next generation. So are you all tracking with me? So I don't use that G word like, grandpa, grandpops, grandfather. And so we spent many, 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 many weeks just deliberating on what is the right name to call me with this next generation. And so we landed on Mufasa. So it seemed to have stuck, and I love the role, don't get me wrong, but the title, I was like, I'm too young for this, I think, or what, I was just trying to wrap my brain around it. So we got those 2 up there. I've got 2 then that are in the Indianapolis area. My middle daughter just graduated from school and got her first adult job. So we think she's off the payroll. We're not, maybe, we'll see what's happening there. And then my youngest is still in school in the Indianapolis area. So I got the 3 kids. What else? I am a preacher's kid. So my dad is still kicking. He is like 83, 84 years old. And he's really struggled with this time in life, I would say that. But, he asked me from time to time, Mark, why isn't that churches aren't calling me anymore? It's like, well, you are 83, 84. At some point, you're supposed to be like enjoying some, oxygen at this stage and hanging out with your family. Come on, not literal oxygen, but, in case you're wondering there. So what else might you want to know? So with the Unstuck group, I've been with them for about 7.5 years. About half my role is working directly with churches, parishes, with the leadership teams on strategic planning, a little bit around staffing. And the other half of my role is really working with kind of the broad denominations, networks of churches, with some of our partners. And as we think about how do we bring greater health and vitality to these 80 churches in this region, or these 200 churches in this region. So that's a bit about me. I am, as I mentioned, I'm from Indiana, so I absolutely love DC. I'm still getting accustomed to the whole driving thing. I take so many wrong turns in this area. Yesterday I did it again. It's like one wrong turn will cost you like 12 minutes. It's crazy. It's not quite like that in Indiana. And the other thing about, I'll say this difference about Indiana and DC, and then we'll get on some couple other things. But in Indiana, if you ask somebody, hey, what is it that you do? And they say, I work on the Hill. It means something completely different in Indiana than it does in the DC region. So, here it's like, oh, I work on the Hill, and it's like, oh, yes, that Hill thing, that's in DC. So it's a very, thank you, Jen. Way to just jump in on that. It's like, it's a subtle thing that's there. Hey, I love that this is a 3-year journey, and there's some reasons for that. I think most of us are just wired in a way that, can we just take a pill and have it fix everything, right? Or can we just, what is the magic potion that we can have, and can we just fix this, and like in 3 months, 6 months, we just be on our way? In the midst of this pandemic, it's like, can we just be beyond this thing already? And can we just go and give me the 4 points that we need, and we're just going to do our thing, and let's move on. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. Recently, during the pandemic, I'm very left-brained. My family will tell me that. It's like I think in numbers and just my wiring, right? And so during the pandemic, my tendency was just to go dive deeper into solutions and trying to work on things. I got to fix something, right? And that's just where my left brain goes. My family's like, Mark, you got to exercise your right brain a little bit. You need to do something. And so they encouraged me to think about, how can I exercise this right brain in this season? And so for the first time, I've never done this, but I bought a guitar. I know, that's pretty fun, isn't it? So it's like to exercise this right brain creativity. And I'll tell you what's true about me with my guitar. I just love, I wish I could just perform for you now, right? I've been playing the guitar for a month. Come on now. I mean, I want to be up here and it's like, I'm not sure what song that is actually that would be, but I've been playing the guitar a month. Why not? I want to perform for you. This will be fantastic. Well, is that going to happen? I'm learning that will not happen. So I am 6.75 hours into practicing. So there's my left brain kicking in, because I keep this all in a spreadsheet and keep track of this. And I know it's an issue. But much like playing the guitar, Malcolm Gladwell talks about it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in something. I am going to be extremely old, I think, at the rate that I'm going, to be truly an expert in it. But in 3 years, I've got pretty high hopes. I think a lot can happen in 3 years, and it's going to take a regular effort for me to play. And right now, it sounds like it's like, that's about all I got right now. Trying to play along with some music. I love that it's a 3-year effort, because we hear that from churches and by their actions. We'll go through a planning process with them. We'll do different activities. They have some momentum, 1 month in, 3 months in. Somewhere in that 6 to 12 month period, it's as if they want it to just be fixed, right? They want all that work that they've done initially in the planning to just, it's supposed to be up and to the right at this point. Are we done? Can we just say it's done? Friends, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It is going to take everything in you to lean into this effort, to continuously take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Another step forward, step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And my prayer is that you will have that persistence to stick to it. 3 years is a significant things can get done and great foundations can get laid. So I love the fact that it's 3 years, but just allow yourself to have that mindset. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Be patient with yourself. And you often can't see the small things and knots that you're untying along the way in this journey. So looking forward to it. And plus we get to hang out for 3 years. How awesome is that? The second thing that Jennifer mentioned this a little bit, but you're going to hear me talking a lot about the outsiders and how do we best connect with the community. That is not a derogatory term like, well, we're the insiders and that's the outsiders. Look, no, physically they are outside the 4 walls of your church. They're just not connected to any kind of faith community. The data in DC would say that there's several 100,000 people in this region not connected to a faith community. Hundreds of thousands. And I have way too much car time. And so I am asking this question over and over again. It's like, what do they think? What is it they need? What do they care about? Where do they spend their time? Where do they spend their money? What pain are they navigating through life right now? Why is it that they're so resistant to the church or even that connect? And there's some energy in some cases of their attitude toward the church. Many have legitimate church trauma that they, from previous experiences, that no wonder why they don't step foot in the church. But I ask this question as I'm on these trips often, and can we just step out of this a moment? I want to, when I think about this combination of faith and life, is really an amazing thing. Faith. In Hebrews 11:1, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Faith for me, it's kind of like the wind, right? It's like, I've been all in on this thing for a long time, and we can't see the wind, but we can certainly see the effects of the wind. And during my life, I've certainly had a chance to experience that. As a preacher's kid, I kind of grew up in a little different mode, and it's always been part of me. And then there's a stage, one of the things when I may bring this up again, when I was about 25, somewhere in that range, it was early in our marriage. My wife was working at the church we were at, and she was assigned to read the book God Delusion. So if none of you have read that, God Delusion is a book written by an atheist, Richard Dawkins, and my wife in her loving way said, Mark, I am not going to read this book, but will you read this for me and kind of give me the cliff notes and, what do I need to know about this book? And I'm like, oh, that looks like such an interesting book. And so I read this book, and it put me in about a 3-month faith crisis. And it was eye-opening to just look through the lens of someone that just has no thought or concept that there might even be a God. And for me, oddly enough, it was such a helpful experience for me to strip away all the religious, trite sayings that sometimes can happen in faith communities and all these things that we just want to say are nice things, and to say, God, when have I really, truly experienced God? And it just forced me to really look deeply into myself in that season. Many of you probably have had some troubles in life. I know that I have certainly had those. Sometimes I think we have a message of that's not helpful at times, that everything's going to be up and to the right. You just do this, become part of our church, become part of this parish that we have, and everything is just going to be up and to the right. And that's just not what the Bible says, right? John 16:33, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Life and faith colliding. I don't know what your life has been or what your story is. I know in my life, one of my high school friends at age 27 got hit by a train, passed away suddenly. It was one of the times it was the most difficult time financially for us. I couldn't go to the funeral. I couldn't travel there. We had to borrow money to send even flowers to that funeral. It was a difficult time. One of our kids at age 17 through about 23 went on what we call the I'll Show You plan. Anybody relate to that? With some, it was like holding on for dear life, just what decisions were being made in that season, and we just were doing everything we could just to keep a relationship with our child, right? Just this past year, we found out that one of our kids were assaulted from ages 7 through 10 by a family member. In the middle of the pandemic, this is news that came out. It happened a long time ago, obviously, but in this world, we will have troubles. I just wonder, how the story of faith and these challenges to those that are outside of the faith, or outside and just are saying, if there's a God, and why do all these things happen, right? There's certainly been times in my life that I've asked, God, where are you? But then there's other times in my life that I am just blown away. Like jaw dropped open, and God is everywhere, in everything. And I just can't comprehend and get my mind around the amazing nature and magnitude of God. We were, just this past Labor Day, we were up in Minnesota at some friends, and they've got this yard that kind of goes down to a pond, and they're like, hey, be careful walking on the side of the yard because there's baby turtles. I'm like, oh, well, that's really cool. So we're like tiptoeing over to the side of the yard, and you look closely, and these turtles are about this big. And they're moving like 3 blades of grass. Every motion was like, oh, right? Just trudging through. But when we got close, they all like froze, as if we couldn't see them. I'm like, you're not chameleons, you're turtles. Come on, why? Just keep moving. What are you doing here, right? But it struck me, I'm just watching this, fascinated, because these turtles are coming down this hill, and there's a stream of like 8 or 10 of these turtles that are going down. And the thought just occurred to me going, how do they know where to go? They're an hour or 2 old, right? Whatever it may be. They emerge from, is it a nest that turtles have? Like a nest? All right, thank you. I should really brush up on my turtle knowledge. But I asked me, how do they know to take a left-hand turn and go down this hill about 150 feet to this pond where that's where they're going to grow up? Who tells them that? Where does that happen? Is there some voice in their head that says, hey, turn left? There's some water down there in turtle language. I don't know how that works. I am amazed at this creation that is all around us. From the smallest things under a microscope that our scientists are finding and discovering about cells is just amazing, to the sun that's 93 million miles away, that's one star of what they say are millions just within our galaxy, and then there's millions of galaxies. I'm amazed at the magnitude of how big God is in this creation that we are part of. And we get to tell this story. And so when I think about the connecting faith and life in these same experiences that those that are outside the four walls of the church are having, they're facing the same life too. I'm sure each and every one of you could come up here and share your story a little bit about how you've had some challenges, but also just the amazing blessing of God in your life. I've so loved Dr. Speller's tea. I have decided to follow Jesus. That through all of this, we get to be engaged in this mission to say that we are all in to follow Jesus. Prior to this, and just a couple more things, I read through the baptismal covenant several times just to really think through that. And the part, and I love that we read it again this morning. I believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord. He was conceived by the power of the Holy Spirit and born of the Virgin Mary. He suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, died, and was buried. He descended to the dead. On the third day, he rose again. He ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of God, the right hand of the Father. He will come again to judge the living and the dead. If that's true, it changes everything. If that one paragraph is true, it changes absolutely everything about this time that we have on this little spinning globe for, God willing, whether it's 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 years, that we get to be all in on that message of hope. It just changes everything. Our relationships, our perspective of these questions, how we can engage and love others. And so I'm challenged in what you'll hear throughout some of our time. Will we create enough room in our own lives so that we can add a few more relationships and truly do life and build relationships with some outsiders, those that are disconnected, that are right around us? We'll talk, in the months and few years ahead on how we can be thinking about that from a mindset that we can instill in the life of our parishes. It's such an important key thing for all of us. I just believe that Jesus is the hope of the world, and we get to do this together. So, in closing, a couple things. One, I want this to be very interactive as we're engaged with it. We are going to learn so much from you, and yes, we are going to change and adapt along the way. You all are in the front lines of real ministry, working with real people. You're going to have stories to share and bring back. We're going to adapt. We're going to pivot. We're going to change. We're going to shape all along the way in this 3-year journey. And I cannot wait to get a chance to do this and be on this journey with you all. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mark and Chris. We're grateful for you. I wonder whether I'm going to gain the title cruise director as over the next 3 years with you. But I wanted to orient you before we take our break at 11:15 until 11:30. We'll bring back Canon Stephanie Spellers. To see where we are, which are people cracked open. I wanted to orient you first to the goodies on your table. So number 1, Readiness 360. So this is a congregation-wide initiative, right? This is not just a group of 7 people getting together and dreaming up what's right for St. Nicholas or Christ Church or St. Timothy's. It is a congregation, and to enact change, you need to engage your whole congregation. So right up from the start, in the month of October, you will be asking your entire congregation of ages 16 and up to take Readiness 360. Are you ready to grow? Are you ready for some new changes? And so this is both English and Spanish on your table. You're welcome to take those postcards and put them around the table. There's a QR code that will tell you, okay, I learned how to do this because I'm old. Just take your phone or the photograph and just take a picture of the QR code, and up will come the document. And once October 1 hits, that QR code will actually go to a different document. This one is for the leadership team. The QR code will stay the same, but on October 1st, it will then be for your congregations. It'll be a new document about like, oh, okay, so you don't have to, you can both share the information through QR codes as well as in conversation with one another. The other is because, again, this is not just for us, this is for the sake of the world. For us, our congregations, our neighborhoods, the world, are these stickers, both in English as well as in Spanish. We printed, well, the printer made a mistake, so we actually have twice as many as we need. Some that are a little bit greener than the others, we didn't like the color, so we had them do it again. But we'll give you those out too, but to take back to your congregations and give them out. Have them, I've got them on my computer. It's going to be on, it's on this computer. It's going to be on every computer. Some people can put them on their clothing. Take those. There will be more on the way out if you want to take more. And then, okay, that was on your table. This is your binder for today. We decided that because this is a learning journey, we're going to be adapting. Most of the materials are going to be on that online learning hub, learn.edow.org. We have a few more people to sign up for that. We will be communicating through that medium. So, learn.edow.org actually is the learning platform for the School for Christian Faith and Leadership. Woohoo! There is a course coming up that Mark is going to be teaching, a 4-part course on lunchtime. Again, use your phone and a QR code and the registration should come up. It is about strategic and mission alignment, a little bit deeper dive of what we're going to be doing today. So you might want, you're not required to go to that, but if you want to go or you want to send some other people in your congregation to that, it's free. Use EDOW Fall 100 Fall 21 as your discount code. Flip side are all the courses for the fall that the diocese is now offering. And also in here, I think I actually saw some of you taking a peek at this before, while you were waiting for Eucharist to start, is you all had done a whole lot of assessments, and I am very grateful for all your work in doing that. So thank you. But there's a report that Mark will dive into there. I think this is way cool. So my background is an economist. Believe it or not. And so I love numbers, and so my church house colleagues do know that already. Numbers all the time. So here is your congregation's own dashboard, and we're going to send this out to your rector as a worksheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and on the left-hand side are the metrics for the 7 vital signs. There's more than 7 because there's like 14 metrics for our 7 signs, I think. 15 metrics. Todd will correct me on that if I don't get that right. But to use this to know where we're headed, as well as a place to mark what are our priority initiatives, what are our 90-day action plans. So the diocese is now working on these types of 90-day action plans to keep us going, and we're inviting you into that work as well. So our hope is that we're going to be providing you with the resources that you need to do the work that we ask you to do. And those resources will be options, like menu options, what works for you. We also know that there are 12 different types of congregations here, so if a resource doesn't quite fit you, please talk to us about how we can adapt and make this work for you. This is going to be a responsive journey. I'm in deep listening mode along with you. My job is to listen to you. Your job is to listen to another in your community. So I think with that, we'll take our 15-minute break and then come back. The church cracked open.